So thank you, Alex, for your interesting presentation.
Gonna run over and jump, you know.
Y nuevamente bienvenido, Andrés Araya. Ellos van a tener a continuación una interesante retroalimentación acerca del contexto que nos acaba de hacer Alex. Así que adelante nuevamente.
Okay, thank you, Alex. By the way, Alex speaks very well Spanish. So next year maybe you could try in Spanish, okay? It's a challenge.
Okay, accepted.
Okay? Accepted?
¿Hacemos ahora en español o no? No.
Very good. Sounds very good. Okay, thank you, Alex, for your presentation. Very informative. This is an extremely complex thing from the perspective of infrastructure, believe me. Doing what AWS are doing is a great effort to facilitate to their clients do this kind of thing. So thank you for what you are doing. As you may know, NASDAQ have a great partnership with Amazon Web Services, and obviously nuam are doing the same thing, and we are building our relationship, and thank you for sponsoring this conference.
Placer.
So you mentioned some examples of how clients are dealing with generative AI, because we are with different modelings. We are working for a few years, but generative AI is the new things that we could use, and I think that it's good for the audience maybe hear more in deep detail some examples of how brokerage houses or market infrastructure are using it, and if you can tell about the client's name also, if there is public, even better.
Yeah, sure. AI adoption, generative AI adoption, as I mentioned, have been really big trends, right, within capital markets for over a decade, right? And generative AI, it captures the imagination because of that ability to create something new, right? And kind of recognize deep patterns within its training data set and then mirroring that pattern into new contexts. That's the really cool thing, right? And so when we look at customers' adoption of AI and generative AI, it's really been under two key categories, right? The first is driving operational efficiencies, right? Doing the same level of work better and more efficiently, so you save costs. And the second is to launch new business products and services, right? To innovate, either existing offerings or to launch something net new. And so on the, net new side of things, and I'll kind of lump together AI and generative AI because it kind of is, in my mind, pretty much the same thing. You have customers like Vanguard, right, who, they offer investment glide paths to customers in the United States for their retirement accounts. So your pensions, your 401ks, and these glide paths take in considerations like your age, your retirement, target retirement date, your risk profile, target returns, income, contribution amount, everything you can imagine. And they generate an investment basket that dynamically changes and adjusts over, your life, right? And previously they offered 20 of these paths, right, which were, again, powered by machine learning. They leveraged Amazon SageMaker, right, and refined that model to now offer about 1,300 of these investment glide paths, so hyper-personalization at about 4% of the cost it would have been to do it on-prem, right, at about 1/12 of the time. Another good example is HSBC, right? They built the industry's first AI-based index, right, that self-rebalances and directs a lot of, quite a few funds that are based off of that index at scale. And they use a feature that AWS provides called Amazon SageMaker Clarify that helps, address the challenge of, explainability and, ethical AI usage, so you can see what inputs on the data side led to what specific outputs, and you can measure performance and measure model drift. Third, another example for NASDAQ, they launched a GenAI-powered solution on the data side of things called NASDAQ Sustainability Lens, which aggregates data on the ESG side from about 6,000 companies and provides customers with on-demand reports, analysis, summaries across a whole range of those E, S, and G buckets, so that you can kind of benchmark your own performance, understand the latest trends, and compare how a group of your peers are behaving, right? On the operational efficiency side of things, I mean, as you mentioned, this has been something that many people have been using to do something simple like automating, text extraction, right, all the way to kind of forecasting complex liquidity needs for customers. But that's kind of what we've been seeing too, right? DTCC, we've been working with them for quite some time. They built a machine learning algorithm to predict settlement failure risk because, even if you have a settlement failure risk of about, I guess, 0.1%, if you're clearing 20 billion transactions a year, right, even 0.1%, that's a lot of things you have to deal with. And each process is pretty manual. It takes a lot of time. There's a lot of back and forth. You have to double check. It's a mess. So building a model that can predict that and minimize and take remediative action before things happen is quite important. Euronext did something similar on their CSD, the security side. They built a machine learning algorithm on AWS that predicts customers' liquidity needs so they can more efficiently allocate capital and transfer securities whenever customers need them. And then another good example is Broadridge, right? They do all the proxy voting in the United States, so whenever there's an issue that customers need to vote on at a general meeting. And previously, they had a team of about 160 analysts in India that would manually extract information from a whole range of corporate filings, and it'd take them about 50,000 hours a year to do this. And so they used a few kind of tools: Amazon Textract to extract text from documents, Amazon Comprehend, one of our natural language processing kind of tools to identify relationship between the words. So they removed all that process and could repurpose the team to higher value add kind of functions. And then they fed that out, this, I guess, new data set into SageMaker to launch a new product to predict potentially contentious votes and then monetize that, right? And now, they and others are exploring leveraging this or integrating this with generative AI, like a chat function layer, so you can dynamically interact with it. Another area we're seeing is kind of incorporating, intelligent assistants across products, portfolios, and suites. S&P is doing this with Capital IQ. We have Amazon Q, and a lot of our customers are looking to integrate this as a function, a co-pilot working function across their entire portfolio. So really broad range of applications that we're seeing. I think I should have mentioned it when I was speaking. If I didn't, forgive me. What we're starting to see, especially on the early adopter side of things, from a trading perspective, is AI-powered algorithmic trading and inferencing at the edge. We just did a large POC. Unfortunately, I can't name this customer. With building trading strategies that are powered by generative AI that encompasses a whole range of data sources, real-time news streaming, satellite imagery, tweets, economic data, even weather images, as well as kind of your core kind of financial data, and using that to kind of create new strategies at the edge, at scale. So really cool area that we're seeing, and we expect to see more development there going forward.
Great. You have to remember, Alex, you are a New Yorker, but you are not in New York. We are in Cartagena, so despacito.
Speak a little slower.
Despacito.
Tranquilo.
Yes, relax. Slowly. To follow your English for the audience and specifically for the translator.
And the house back there, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. No,
Sorry.
Thank you very much for sharing those particular use cases that could illuminate the audience. So many tasks are doing several clients. And talking about clients, what are some of the challenges or even risks that customer encounter when using generative AI, very specifically, and if you come down to Latin American specifically, what is the challenges and risks that you can see to adopt this kind of technology?
Yeah, so I guess, the challenge we're seeing specifically for generative AI is, how do you get started, right? Which models do we choose? Oftentimes, certain customers will say, do we choose a foundation model provided off the shelf, or do we build and train our own foundation model? Then there are kind of questions around hallucinations or inaccuracies, model bias, or toxicity, kind of saying inappropriate words, sharing personally identifiable information. And then there's concern about model, like data leakage, right? If your data gets used to train the underlying foundation model, your security posture, if you're using certain RAG, retrieval augmented generation architectures, ensuring that data isn't exposed to the internet. These are kind of the big concerns that I think we encounter, not just within Latin America, but globally. In AWS, we built a range of tools to help our customers, kind of navigate these challenges appropriately. We launched Amazon Guardrails, Amazon Bedrock Guardrails, forgive me, which establishes limits on the types of responses and speech and information that a model can share, so you can filter out inappropriate words, inappropriate language. You can prevent it from sharing sensitive information to customers. With Amazon SageMaker, we allowed customers to analyze model effectiveness and efficiency. SageMaker Clarify is an important one. Our AI service cards let you, see the limitations of AI models, how they're designed to be used, and best ways to deploy them at scale in the cloud. At the same time, from a security perspective, you have one API to make a call with Amazon Bedrock. So it's only one specific point of access. And every time you access a model, it's not the underlying foundation model. It's a copy of that model that gets deployed in your tenancy. So your underlying data does not get leaked into the underlying foundation model. And of course, your data is encrypted at rest and in transit, so an added layer of service. At the same time, we understand that to go from an idea to production is another hurdle, right? It's one thing to learn the technology. It's another thing to take that and deploy it at scale and kind of arrive at something in production. So we have something called the AI Innovation Center, which is where we bring experts from AWS in machine learning and partner them with our customers' machine learning teams and take them through the process of ideation, ideas, right, through to proof of concepts, right, and then all the way through to deploying it into production. That's what we did with NASDAQ when they integrated generative AI into their surveillance platform. We did this with Principal Financial when they were looking to kind of figure out a way to get a better sense of all their customer interactions on their customer help and chatbot side. They get about 10 million calls and customer inquiries a day. Previously, they could only analyze about 10% of that at best. So that left about 11 million or 9 million calls. They had no idea what was going on. We worked with them to build a knowledge base, a big data lake of all these interactions, and then do summarization, trend analysis, for all this information to the point where they now can do this in real time, do predictive recommendations to their call center agents to kind of handle any objections or challenges, and then launch new products and services off the back of that. Another thing that wasn't part of the Generative AI Innovation Center, I know I only have 28 seconds, so I might speak like a New Yorker now. Is J.P. Morgan recently shared at reInvent how they built a modern or a common data analytics and AI platform for their asset management division. This platform is massive, right? It ingests hundreds of millions of data points every day from over 200 sources. It powers 600 applications across all their across the entire organization, and it led to them saving 50% on their data hosting costs. And 30% faster time to deployment for new applications, and $10 billion in new revenue because of this platform. One of the things that we helped them build was a recommendation engine for their sales force, right, which would provide tailored recommendations to each individual salesperson for specific trades, products, and engagement methodologies for them, right, on demand. And because this was generative, right, and was trained by direct customer interaction and feedback, the model got really good. Right, so it cut down the amount of time that you would spend from kind of a salesperson would spend gathering information and conducting analysis from days or weeks to like minutes, and had similar if not better results too. So these are the ways we're helping customers navigate these risks, right, and move forward. The last one, maybe I know we've gone over, is optimize for time, right, and ensure that you have the right model for the right use case. And that's where you get the topic of small language models for dedicated use cases and faster time to value. Okay, that was it.
Fortunately, we are running out of time, but the last question is, I belong to Welfare Exchange Technological Group, and internally we discussed, when we talked about generative AI, is that financial institutions are so many around the world, right? Thousands. But now the concentration of the third party is too high. You're laughing. I know one is Amazon Web Services. You know who is the others? No?
Oh, no.
I do.
Oh, yeah,
I do. Microsoft and Google, right? You are three big guys, right? Technological. So the problem around that is this technology is so many concentrated. Do you really think that it could be a problem around the herding behavior that maybe the models could run and we are doing the same thing, or create some risks around that? Short answer, please.
And I thought you were going to give me easy questions because I'm injured and I came all the way down. Nah, man. So, okay, the question was, whether the relative concentration of model providers and, I guess, AI tool providers could represent concentration risk for the industry, right? So there are many layers to that question, and I kind of, respectfully, I don't know if I fully agree with a lot of them. And so the short answer is no. We don't think that that's a material risk for markets, right? And while I can understand, as you outlined, right, where this question could come from, like, hey, there's a relative concentration for people who provide out-of-the-box tools to train traditional machine learning algorithms, especially when you compare to the groups of customers using it. I mentioned 100,000, right, that are already using AWS. And I can also see, at the same time, the providers for LLMs, right, large language models. It's a relatively smaller group of language model providers compared to those using it. Within that group, there are many that are there. But at the same time, that kind of ignores how these models are used in production, right? Whenever a machine learning algorithm, be it a traditional AI machine learning algorithm that does structured learning, right, or a generative AI, neural network that does both unstructured and structured, the differentiator here, what determines the output, are two things, right? The data that goes in to train it, right, as well as the unique statistical models that go into, optimizing model performance. On both of those instances, people who will use the tools that, for example, we provide with SageMaker, or who use off-the-shelf LLM models, that's their value add. They open up their own internal, proprietary data sets, and they use their own proprietary styles of optimizing performance. At both levels, that dramatically changes how these machine learning algorithms perform in production. So while the use case is the same, right, okay, we're going to use, like a quant fund, we're going to use machine learning to trade our algo execution engine, and that's going to work, right? What you'll see with AQR compared to Bridgewater to Acadian will be very different in production. So a really good way to think about this is, like, I mentioned NASDAQ. They have the industry's first AI-based order type, DMello, for the equity markets. The way that will behave is very different from the way that TrueMid, the corporate bond platform in AWS, how their AI-powered recommendation engine will work too. Same use case, like a trade matching and recommendation system that aligns buyers and sellers, different kind of performance, example. The example I gave with JP Morgan earlier in that common data platform, right, that kind of powers that recommendation engine for their sales force. All of their peers are doing this too, right? Anyone who has a retail trading business, any large broker-dealer that has an asset management arm, is trying to gather this customer 360 perspective and understand every point of interaction with that customer across all product lines and divisions, and then in real time tailor the answers or the results that they provide or engage with the customer, the decisions the machine learning does. Those decisions are unique not only to the firm, but individuals within the firm, right? So what JP Morgan is doing, and maybe another bank that I can't name that's doing something similar, it will be different as well. You've been seeing it with Jefferies, right? They have a machine learning platform that powers recommendations for their investment banking arm, right? And the tools and services and the solutions they offer to their institutional customers. That will be different from what JP Morgan sees too. The last thing, and I know we're out of time, I see the number flashing at me. Generative AI, we're in the early days, right? Every day I open TechCrunch and I see a new funding round of some whiz kid MIT dropout who's gotten a $200 million funding round to launch a new large language model, right? Mistral, for example, it was a recent merger out of Paris, right? And their models are performing very, very well. Customers like Bloomberg are building their own large language model. There are other financial service customers who I can't name, unfortunately, who we've worked with to build and train their own foundation models. So it's a constantly evolving space, right, which will change over time. And so that kind of implied comment that there's a small static list of providers of model, I don't necessarily see that. But I don't know. My thoughts as a cloud provider.
Thank you for the short answer. We really appreciate your time, your knowledge, Alex. Thank you for coming and share with us all of that you know about this theme. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Un placer.
Thank you again. Thank you very much, Alex, for this interesting conversation with Alex Araya, por supuesto también por conducirla.